Hello. One viewer, don't know who it is. Hopefully it's Joe. I tried to connect. Yes! Yeah! We have success. She's just coming. It says it's adding. The technology gods have been against us tonight. I'll explain why in a little second. Oh, it's flashing. Adding. Hello. Little love. When you get the little love hearts, the little floating love hearts. Hello, Kate. Hello, Carrie. Oh, Joe. I can't bring Joe Hathaway on camera. There's already a guest in this broadcast, and for God's sake, hang on. No answer from the live video guest. We are not having much luck. All right, okay. It says it's at, if you, oh, hang on, Joe. Good, stay there. Add. Yes! Oh my God, thank God you're here. I was like, she's lost in the void somewhere. What a carry on that was. I knew we should have just stopped with Facebook, flipping Instagram, doomed. Can you hear me? Oh, hang on. I'll try again. I wonder if I need headphones. Cool, thanks Carrie, that's good. Good to know. I'm not sure if we need headphones in. I don't think so. I'm just having a total nightmare. I don't know if anyone saw us on trying to connect on Instagram, but it was a comedy. Hang on. Oh. I'm afraid to speak.
We're there.
Oh. Are you okay? Can you hear me? We got
Can you
there.
hear me?
I can hear you fine. Let me just turn my volume up. Let's see. I'm afraid to touch anything in case I like lose connection or lose something. Welcome. For anyone that is watching that was following us over Instagram, we were trying to connect on Instagram and it was Instagram gods said no. So we've jumped onto Facebook. We're so professional now at this. And the Facebook gods have said yes. So welcome. Let me just introduce, so anyone that is watching from Ostara that comes to class with me, this is Jo. Jo actually is a body control teacher. She has her own business, Total Precision Pilates, down in London. She's been a teacher for over 10 years. And she's actually a supervising teacher with Body Control, which is the Pilates school that I train with and that I go to. So Jo oversees new teachers like me. Okay, she's saying some kind of feedback going on in the background. Something. Do you need headphones for this?
Maybe.
Yeah. I'll grab mine. No, I don't. I'm like so old school. I don't have. You got headphones in?
Now.
That's better. Somebody that's listening, Carrie, does that sound better? Hello? We probably lost everyone. That does sound better. Even I can hear.
Yeah, I think it's better. It's
Yeah.
strange because there's just me, nothing else on. Weird that there's feedback.
I have no idea. I've never done this before, so I've never like explored. I don't know what difference the headphones make, like why headphones would make a difference, and you can't just carry this.
Yeah,
Yes, that's much
brilliant.
better. Perfect. So we're all
Good,
good.
good.
This is a perfect example of how to use your breath to calm yourself when things are not going quite as according to plan. So yeah, we're right on
Brilliant.
topic. So I was saying before things kind of fell away there, Jo's a body control Pilates teacher. Her background is in dance, professional dancer, and she has been a teacher for over 10 years. She's a supervising teacher with Body Control. So I think I was saying before we cut off that Jo is responsible for supervising new teachers like myself through their training, gets to sign them off, gets to watch them develop and grow. And the reason that Jo is here is because next Friday, she's running a mini workshop on using the breath to manage stress and anxiety for my guys. Anyone wants to kind of come along to that? Not just for my guys, it's actually open to anybody. And the reason I asked Jo is because Jo holds a specialist qualification in chronic respiratory, so exercise for chronic respiratory disease. Is that right, Jo?
Exercise specialist in chronic respiratory disease.
Disease. So it's a level 4, it's the highest you can get, and it took Jo quite a significant amount of time to get it. And part of her qualification involves spending some time with St Thomas's Hospital in London in the pulmonary rehab department there, working with people with chronic respiratory conditions. And I'm going to ask Jo to tell us a little bit why she decided to do that qualification, because Jo is a shining example of somebody that's taken what I would kind of deem as bad news around her health and turned it around into something so positive. I should say Jo will explain herself. She developed a workshop off the back of her level 4, now teaches other teachers in terms of how to train breathing and good breath work. So Jo, just tell the story about the sort of journey that you've been on and why you're here, because it's amazing. I love it.
So of course. So I was diagnosed with asthma when I was 24, and at that point I was still dancing, and it didn't really make much difference to what I was doing. I just carried on and learned to deal with it, and sometimes getting a cold or a chest infection took longer to get over, but generally I was very healthy and just carried on dancing and running and all the stuff that I would normally do. And mid-30s then I got pneumonia, and that's where everything changed, and it took a long time to get over, and for a good 12 months I had a really chronic cough afterwards. I kept going back to the GP and seeing the nurses, the asthma nurse, and they'd say, oh, this is just normal recovery for pneumonia. And I'd say, but I'm really fit, so I don't think that this, yes, maybe 6 months or whatever, but by the time it was getting to 12 months, and it was really affecting my life. So I had a 10-minute walk to get to the tube station from my flat, and I'd gone from dancing every night and in shows, and then running every day or every other day and being really, really fit, to not being able to walk that 10-minute journey to the tube station. So I'd get 5 minutes along and have to stop and take a breath and then carry on. So
it's soul destroying.
Oh, absolutely.
Soul destroying. You're so fit and so active.
And then to wonder if that was how it was going to be for the rest of my life, So eventually I sort of put my foot down and asked to see a respiratory specialist, and I did do, and they did many tests along the way, and they'd gone from, this could be cancer, it could be sarcoidosis, it could be this, it could be permanent, it could be curable, it could be not, we just don't know what it is. So the final straw was to sort of put a camera down there and have a look around and see what was going on, and I had a CT scan, and then they decided it was this condition called bronchiectasis, which comes under the banner of COPD, but it isn't actually COPD. It's more similar in symptoms and whatnot to cystic fibrosis. So the airways widen because of the pneumonia, the damage from pneumonia. And so it's a bit gross, but mucus pools at the bottom of the airway, and then if it stays trapped there, it gets infected, which causes more damage. So therefore, the more infections you get, the more you degenerate. So with that, it was sort of just, go away and deal with it. And I said to the consultant, but how do I get fit again? Because I don't want to be like this. I've been so fit. Yeah, exactly. And I was trying to teach, but I was coughing all the time because, again, even as Pilates teachers, we need to be very fit because you're walking around people and you're using your voice a lot. And even just doing that, I was coughing an awful lot. And I said, you know, this is my job, it's my career, it's my livelihood. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, just get on a treadmill, you'll be fine. And that wasn't enough of an answer to me. I need to know
No.
more. So I
Yeah.
wanted to know how to get fit, not just go and get on a treadmill and, you know, yeah, you'll be all right. And the answer really was a correct one. I would be all right. But I wanted to know more about it, which is why I researched, and I found this course through the British Lung Foundation, because it was designed in conjunction with them, and Leicester hospitals. And so did it through Loughborough College. And like you said, I did my placement at St Thomas's in the pulmonary rehab department. And that was the first time as well for me. I got support because I was never offered any support. So it was the first time I'd met other people with lung conditions. I met people with asthma before, but not with the condition that I'd got, or really COPD or anything. I'd never really met anybody that was limited by those conditions. So that was a real wake-up call to be able to meet people like me and know I did have a future, and you know, I was able to get better than I currently was. And they loved the fact that I was there, one of them, trying to learn how to improve the situation. So that's where it started. I did it with really, really selfish intentions to make me better. And then once I qualified, it's like, well, all that time, it was about 2.5 years that I spent trying to get sorted out. And from the pneumonia to diagnosis and starting to feel as if I could get fit again. And I was like, I can't let that time be wasted. There's got to be some reason, you know, I've got to learn from this. And that's what happened. I started to think, well, how can I incorporate this with the Pilates and help people that have got respiratory issues? Because I struggled so much to find help. For somebody like me that was fairly young, it's not usual to get this sort of disease at my age. So it's like, well, you know, I can be there for other people and share my experience.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes it so incredibly special when you're teaching, is that you've got that lived experience and you've walked that path and you're in those shoes. And that's the difference between somebody just saying, like a GP just saying to you, oh well, you know, just go off and do this, and not really having that empathy and really understanding the challenges that you're up against, as opposed to somebody that's done it, that's there, that's kind of lived it and breathed it, and can actually know exactly when somebody says to you, I'm really struggling, you just know exactly how that feels.
Because
and that roller coaster as well, it's frightening when you lose, like when you become breathless, if you're, whether you're anxious or through disease or whatever, it's frightening, and that manifests in the breath, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Always.
And I was just going to say that, you know, people that don't have respiratory issues, or maybe don't have family that have experienced issues, you don't realize, I didn't realize, even though I was asthmatic, I was a very mild asthmatic, I didn't realize what it felt like to be that breathless, and how frightening it was to be that breathless. So yeah, I think some of us aren't even aware of our breath until we get a cold and we can't breathe, or you do get a diagnosis like that. We're not even really aware, because it's that automatic function that we can control. But most of us, you just go about your day and you don't think about it.
Like your health, you take it for granted.
100%.
You just think it's there, and unless something goes wrong with it, I really give it much thought. But interestingly, just to take a wee tangent, in the holidays I was given for Christmas Caged Lion, which is the book about Joseph Pilates, one of the elders, or one of his clients that became a really good friend, had written it. And I actually didn't realise that Joe Pilates had a chronic lung condition, and that's what claimed his life in the end, but was so passionate about learning how to breathe and how to breathe well. And that's one of the key messages in the book, is that he was adamant that you breathe deeply into I think he's sort of likened the lungs to bellows, and you breathe deeply into your lungs, which brings us nicely on to, for anybody watching, can you just explain the difference between what Pilates breathing is, so that intra-abdominal pressure that we create to stabilize, versus what you would teach in terms of what good breath is? Because they're different, aren't they? We breathe in Pilates slightly differently, you know what? From a normal.
They are and they're not in some ways. I'm a bit of a rebel Pilates teacher in a way, and I'm more and more I'm sort of, in some situations I'm moving away from that a little bit, in that breathing is breathing, and sometimes if we over focus on it, we can create more of an issue. So it's finding that very happy medium between making people so aware that they're sort of when you get all these all this exhaling through the mouth, and yeah, exactly, and it's actually you're just hyperventilating. This is not doing you any good at all. So in some respects with that, I'm a bit of a rebel Pilates teacher, because I just prefer people to breathe normally, because our bodies will do what we need to do in terms of stabilizing. But we can key into that breath. So for example, on an inhalation, our spine lengthens and it slightly shortens, for want of a better word, on the exhalation. So if we're wanting to find that elongation, that opposition that we often talk about in Pilates, we can really key into that with the inhalation. So we can choose our breath pattern depending on the movement that's taking place or the result that we want to have in the body. So if we're looking for maybe more stability or more mobility, we can decide the breath pattern that's appropriate for the movement that's taking place. So yeah, we do spend a lot of time as teachers playing with that, and then viewing that in our clients, and deciding what's the best breath to use for different exercises.
Yeah. And what does good breathing look like, Jo? Like for a typical person with maybe no kind of challenges in terms of respiratory challenges, what is good breathing? What is a good breath?
So
does it exist?
Well, yes and no. There's so many different breaths and so many different appropriate breaths for different tasks. So we're going to have a different good breath when we're running. We'll have a different good breath when we're walking. We'll have a different good breath when we're maybe lying in bed reading a book or watching something really interesting on TV. So all these different states that, or emotional states that we can be in, that will dictate what sort of a breath we have.
Because I bet you there's lots of people that are watching that have never considered there are different breaths for different things, including not just running. You would expect, your breath to change running, but even just sitting or lying in bed or walking, like your breath and the rhythm of your breath changes all the time. It's always kind of moving, isn't it? Almost.
Absolutely. Like, and most of the time we're not aware of it, because it follows what we're doing, or it follows what the nervous system is telling us what we need to do. Sometimes it can go a little bit wonky, and we can get people with hyperventilation or disordered breathing patterns. I'm very careful that if I do think somebody's in that situation, then I refer them on to somebody. I don't deal with that, because that's not my qualification. But I do try to help people have awareness of their breath. And I mean, maybe we could do just a little thing now, would be quite handy at this point. To maybe just place one hand on the chest, and then one hand just below the rib cage. So you've got your costal arch here, where the ribs sort of join here at the sternum. And if you just place the hand here, and then one hand on the chest, and we're just, sometimes some people might feel this is more comfortable to do lying down, but you're just going to take a normal breath in, not a particularly deep breath, and you just notice which hand is moving. So for some people, if they have got more of a disordered pattern, maybe you'll see this sort of action, and you might see the shoulders going a little bit, particularly in our current state, our current situation in the world, where everybody's quite anxious, maybe a little bit nervous, stressed, worried about work and whatnot. And then we might get a little bit more up in our chest into a shallow breath rate. And then hopefully what we're really aiming to find is that we get some movement through this hand, through the abdominal, through the abdomen, and through just below the costal arch there.
Into the belly.
Yeah, but then again, not too much. So we don't want to be one of those people where we really blow the tummy out either. It's this sort of happy medium where there's a little bit of chest movement, but the majority of the movement is happening through here, which is where the diaphragm's moving. As we inhale, that diaphragm's moving down, and it's that 360-degree motion around the sort of lower 5 to 6 ribs. That diaphragm's moving down, and then on the exhalation, it's releasing back into its resting place. So really, on a natural, normal day-to-day breath, this is where we're going to feel the movement, with maybe a little bit here, but not so much here. And then,
and it's interesting, isn't it? Because I would guess most people will be up here
a lot of the moment.
Yeah. And on that note, that's brilliant, Jo.
No,
Thank
you're
you.
welcome.
Tell us a little bit about the pandemic. So we're seeing even I'm baffled by even some of the language that we're seeing. That even the language can be quite kind of anxiety
Yeah.
inducing things like lockdown, pandemic. Now we're hearing things like the vaccination, lockdown 2, lockdown 3, social distancing, furlough, and everything else in between. What are some of the things that can happen to the breath when, you know, you are kind of worried or stressed or anxious? And obviously as well, we've got people that maybe are recovering from COVID that, and again, from what I've seen on the news, it's this spectrum of, it can be absolutely horrific, or people can just have mild symptoms. But as I understand from what I read, the recovery is quite, it takes quite a while to recover from it. That's kind of the message that's coming through.
For sure. It can be for a lot of people. You know, we're looking, some people, long COVID, experiencing symptoms such as you would find with ME and chronic fatigue, those sorts of conditions, long-term fatigue, breathlessness. Some people hyperventilating, but very much more sort of disordered breathing patterns, and it's happening to quite a lot of people. And some of those have had fairly mild symptoms, but then they're having a very long recovery, and which is why it's such a dangerous disease. And it's, even if you do get mild symptoms, you can suffer the effects for a long time afterwards. And with that, you know, you've just got to be kind to yourself. There's lots and lots of research coming out. It is still a bit of an unknown. You could potentially go through pulmonary rehab. There's lots of bits and pieces online. So if you are suffering, do get in touch with the GP. Do try and get involved with these programs. And it's there's, you know, certain positions, if you are feeling breathless. I've moved all my furniture so I could come and be in front of the camera here, but I wonder if I move this, just roll this up a little bit, is that going to work? It might do. Just move the cat bed, you know.
She won't mind. Yes, she will. She'll be having a right word with you at the end. How dare you?
She's in a different cat bed. She's over there.
Oh, I love it. 2 cat beds.
Or many cat beds.
She's spoiled.
So one thing that you can do, and this is anybody who's experienced breathlessness, whether you've just gone for a run, or whether it is due to flu or COVID symptoms, if you lean forwards in sitting, or you can do this against a wall or anywhere, you could even rest your hands in your belt loops. The idea is, excuse the mop, the idea is that you allow your accessory muscles to become breathing muscles rather than shoulder stabilizing muscles. So by leaning forward and just resting your forearms on your thighs, or like I say, you could rest on the wall or wherever you happen to be. Ladies, you could even use a handbag. If you've got the strap crossed over your body, you can put your hands in the strap, because it just takes the work off the shoulders. And then you lean forward, and then I'll do a sort of demonstration.
Oh, nice.
So then you get these muscles, then, like I say, they work to become accessory breathing muscles rather than, there we go, rather than shoulder stabilizing muscles. So that's a really good way to reduce breathlessness if you're really struggling. But then get help if you are suffering from long COVID symptoms, or if it is new breathlessness that you've not had before. It might not necessarily be COVID, it could be anything. So always get that investigated. In terms of just general mental health, I think, you know, and I'm noticing it a lot with my clients, it is just that stress, the worry about family, worry about work, worry about the future, where does this all go in terms of work and jobs in the future. So that brings us very much into this upper chest movement. So again, if we had the hand here, you might notice this stress response. So you're breathing into the upper body, into the neck, into the shoulders, and that actually it goes straight into our sympathetic nervous system, which is part of the autonomic nervous system. And again, a bit like breathing, we switch in and out of the states of the nervous system, parasympathetic and sympathetic, without really knowing. It just happens depending on the task that's at hand. But very much at the moment, we are seeing that a lot of people are in that sympathetic state. So we can do many things with breathing to help bring us out of that state and to help us calm down. So we want to come out of that sympathetic fight or flight, which is exhausting to be in that all the time. It's useful, again, if we were in danger. We need that system, so we can key into it. But generally, we don't need that all day, every day. So it's all about increasing your exhalation and increasing the depth of your breath. So the vagus nerve, it innervates through the diaphragm. So by using that diaphragm, increasing that movement of the diaphragm and slowing the rate of the breath down, we can key into the parasympathetic, or the rest and digest part of that autonomic nervous system. So really little exercise called box breathing. So you can inhale for 4, pause for 4, exhale for 4, pause for 4. That's good, but it is literally the box. So we're not really increasing the exhalation, but for those people who struggle to get a longer exhalation, it could be a good place to start. For those people that feel okay with a longer exhalation, a better way to do it in a way would be to breathe in for 3 and then breathe out for 6 and do just a couple of minutes of that. Once you're used to that, and again, some people, it's a bit like the mask wearing, people panic when they have to exhale because they always want the inhalation. And that's the same whether we've got respiratory disease or not. It's all about, I need that breath, I need that breath. So it's, whereas we need to focus on the out, the out, the out. But like I say, the nervous system goes, what are you doing? What are you doing?
I don't like
yeah,
this.
exactly.
Like
so we bring it down. And if you then feel comfortable with 3 and 6, then try breathing in for 4 and exhaling for 8. So you're trying to double the length of the exhalation against the length of the inhalation. And again, it's practice. It takes time, but that will help to bring us into that more rested parasympathetic state.
Yeah, brilliant. So these are some of the things, presumably, that we will be discussing and doing for real in our workshop next Friday.
Absolutely.
So for anybody that is watching or grabbing this on catch up, God, I sound like logo. And I've just taken a double breath. Jo very, very kindly is running a workshop for me, for anybody in Ostara, in the Ostara community, or anybody that's on the Facebook page or knows of me or any of the work that I do. Next Friday, it's a Zoom workshop, 6 till 7:15. It's really going to be looking at some of the things that Jo has just kind of beautifully gone through and explained. So breathing to manage stress and anxiety. So that can be work related, or it can be as a result of the pandemic, or anything and everything else in between. Now, the most incredible thing about this workshop is, besides the fact we've got the lovely Jo taking us through it, she's very kindly waived her fee, and the class will be donation based. And Jo has said if we could donate the money to a lung charity of my choosing. So I've chosen Mesothelioma UK, which is the charity in the UK for anybody that's diagnosed with an asbestos related lung condition. And people that don't know me are probably rolling their eyes going, asbestos related lung condition? Yes. So mesothelioma is a cancer caused by exposure to asbestos. Mesothelioma affects the chest pleura and the lungs. And it claimed my dad and my uncle 5 years ago. So I do some work that Mesothelioma UK are very supportive of. In fact, they're one of the 2 charities that fund the National Network for the Treatment of Mesothelioma in Scotland. So it's just beyond brilliant to be able to do this and then donate the money to them. So thank you to Jo for that. It's incredible. And we would love to see as many people as possible. It's just a nice way to spend a Friday night in lockdown as well, let's face it. And you're going to learn the most incredible things about your body. And Jo and I were talking earlier in the week. You've always got your breath. No matter what happens to you in life, you have always got your breath. And it is a real skill to be able to tap into it and use it to your advantage. So please do come along and join us. You'll see the link somewhere on this Facebook page, book when link. And you can sign up, and it explains in the link how to make the donation, and you'll be sent your link to join the workshop. There are a few bits of equipment that we've said that you would potentially need, but not essential. So in the description of the class, there's the alternatives. If you don't have, some of my guys have the equipment, will have like the Pilates ball, the small ball, over ball, and things like that. But if you don't, no big deal. You'll see the alternatives as well. So please come join us. It will be fantastic. And Thank you so much, Jo. It's just been
Oh
incredible.
no, thank you for inviting
I look
me.
forward to the next one. Yeah, no, amazing. So if you want to find out more about Jo and her work, she's at Total Precision Pilates. I've got real problems saying
And
precision.
it's a bit of a mouthful.
Oh my God. And for any Pilates teachers watching, the workshop is the Vital Breath workshop. Jo often runs them for Body Control Pilates, but I think, do you do them outside of BCP
I
as well?
just booked 2, but then they were cancelled because of COVID. So,
so
eventually,
follow her and you'll be kept up to date, or subscribe. She has a lovely newsletter that comes out, and you'll be kept up to date with all of that. I would highly recommend it. And her Instagram has brilliant hints and tips as well for breathing and things
when
like
I
that.
get round to posting.
Thank you, Jo. Yeah, no, I think I'm done with Instagram
after tonight.
I'm like,
I know. Oh, crazy.
You have a great
and
weekend.
you too,
Stay safe.
you too, Julie.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Thanks, Jo.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.